Just when you thought there was no way I had enough saliva for one more video, here I am yet again. And yes, my mouth does get dry and I do get somewhat dehydrated after ranting for some of these videos, but I can always just sit back and, drink like a hydrating Prime drink or something like that. I mean, who needs water when you have delicious Prime? Anyways, let's get straight into today's video. I wanted to make one more top 5 for you guys. We're going to be looking at the top 5 most expensive Iron Man Marvel Legends out there. This one was a very difficult video to put together just because a lot of the figures on today's list, the price ranges were so similar to each other. So it was very difficult to kind of pick and choose which the top 5 were going to be. So yes, this could have easily been a top 10 just because, like I mentioned, the price range is just not that different. A lot of the figures are selling consistently for about the same price point. So I had to make some very difficult choices here, but here you guys go, another top 5. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into it. And just an FYI, I did decide to leave off any deluxe figures or any exclusives. I know there were like some UK exclusive waves and then any 2-packs as well. I know somebody commented on a previous video that mentioned a 2-pack, but those just seem a little bit unfair considering there is some extra value there. Having said all of that, let's get straight into it with number 5, where we have the Marvel Legends Iron Man Mark 7. This was a part of a really big marketing campaign that they had going for the first 10 years of the MCU. I remember they had like notebooks, lunch bags with this printed on it, even t-shirts, and they decided to re-release a lot of the old school action figures that potentially people had missed out on, and then eventually some new figures. But all of this was just another big opportunity for Marvel or Hasbro to release more merchandising, and we received this hunk of plastic, which, by the way, this one was on sale. I remember picking up a couple of these for like $10 to $12 on Amazon. For the longest time, they spiked back up to roughly about, like, I would say $50, and then it's kind of settled at like really high 40s. We've seen even some sales for as high as like 60, but it seems like it's going to settle around that $50 price point, which is actually not too bad. It does come with a lot of really cool accessories. It comes with the blast effect pieces for the hands and the legs, but it also comes with some like little articulated wings on the back. So it is one of the best sculpted and painted Iron Mans out there. It's one of those that I personally recommend to go and get, especially when they were at that clearance price point on Amazon for the longest time. But this is a great figure to add to your collection. It definitely deserves to be in our top 5. Like I said, I think a couple of years ago it might have been a little bit higher, but because the MCU has kind of faltered recently and it's probably at an all-time low, this figure is definitely much more affordable. At our 4th spot, we have the 80 years anniversary Marvel Legends Iron Man. There were a plethora of different core Marvel Legends Avengers action figures that were released along with this Iron Man. It's one of the most coveted waves, honestly, even though it's only about like 2 to 3 years old. It also came with quite a few different accessories, which isn't half bad for a regular retail price or a regular retail setting. It came with about 4 different blast effects, and if I'm not mistaken, 2 different head sculpts, not to mention an unmasked Tony Stark head, which is considered by some to be maybe the best comic book accurate Tony Stark head of all time. It's a phenomenal figure and it's still relatively affordable. If I'm not mistaken, this figure was going for about $24.99. It has gone up by quite a bit. If you're looking for one that's in really good condition, you're looking at either really low 50s all the way up to 60, and I saw some listings as high as 70. It depends, but for the most part you can find a really good solid one for about $50 to $55. So it's essentially doubled in value since its release, but I think you can see exactly why it's gone up. It's a phenomenal figure, and at the time it was a pretty innovative offering from Hasbro. So that is our 4th spot. Let's move on to number 3 here, where we have the Marvel Legends Iron Man Mark 3. Another great addition to any collection, not only because it's relatively affordable considering it's, a figure that was released a few years ago, and we all know, especially with MCU figures, if they sit in a collection or on a shelf for just a couple of years, they tend to just spike up for apparently no reason, because we're probably not going to see Tony Stark in the MCU again. But it does also come with a decent array of accessories. It also comes with a Tony Stark head sculpt, one that has the front side of his helmet kind of lifted so you can actually see Tony Stark's face. It's a great addition, like I said, to people that are completionists, people that are looking to get as many Iron Man marks as they possibly can. And this is a perfect example of that. This is one from the very early stages of the MCU. We're looking at Iron Man Mark III. If you're looking for this figure brand new, at least in solid condition, it looks like you're going to be paying somewhere along the lines of like mid 40s to high 50s. It just depends on the seller and the condition of the actual box. If you're an inbox collector, you're probably going to be paying closer to the high 50s. Like I said, this is another one of those figures that has just been fluctuating in price for the last couple of years. We've seen it drop, we've seen it be extremely high, but it seems like it's going to settle around that price point. So another great addition to your MCU collection. Like I said, if you're looking to complete as many Iron Man marks as you possibly can, and this is probably one of the most iconic ones, an absolute fan favorite. So that is our number 3. Let's move on to the second spot on today's list. And honestly, I could never create a top 5 Marvel Legends list without including at least one Toy Biz action figure. And today we're going to be talking about the Stealth Iron Man from Toy Biz. This was released in 2002. And just to clarify, we are talking about the variant, which is a little bit more scarce than the regular release. And this is a really interesting figure. Same thing, it's gone up and down in value for the most part, but it seems to be a figure that a lot of people are very interested in. I've seen even some that are yellowing and the packaging is just an absolutely brutal condition. I see even those going for, like mid 40s. If you're looking for one that's like in really good condition, you're probably looking at close to like $60 to $70. We all know the yellowing can happen on that packaging. We know warping is a really big issue, especially for a figure that is over 20 years old. It's crazy to think that some people were just tiny little single-celled organisms at the time. Some people maybe didn't even exist back then, but it has definitely earned its spot on today's list. Now, without further ado, let's get into the top most expensive Marvel Legends Iron Man out there. And we're talking about the Marvel Legends Mark 85 Iron Man. It might also be one of the most difficult Iron Man Marvel Legends from the MCU to find out in the wild. I'm not sure why this is. I mean, even if you go on eBay and try to look them up, you will find a variation of different postings and different listings from a plethora of different sellers, but a lot of them are not the same figure. I'm not sure what the algorithm is there for eBay, but they seem to just be throwing random Iron Mans at you. I think this may have some discrepancies in terms of the prices, but if you're looking to get one that's in good condition from a reputable seller, it looks like you're going to be paying anywhere from like $60 to almost $80. I personally feel like it depends on the seller more so than the condition, it seems. But regardless, it's a phenomenal figure. It's one of the last versions of Iron Man that you're going to get, considering this is the faithful suit that Tony Stark dies in the Endgame. By the way, spoiler alert, I don't know if I could say that, but literally the film is God knows how many years old. You probably should have watched it by now. But regardless, this is one of the most iconic suits, and I think it will go down in history as one of the most iconic moments in the MCU. So I definitely feel like the value is there at the moment, and I think it's going to continue to climb up, especially considering we are moving further and further away from that phase of the MCU, which in a lot of people's opinion is the best era. But there you guys have it. That is today's list. I try to keep it as short and sweet as I possibly could. I know I have a tendency to ramble and talk about just random nonsense that has nothing to do with the video, but I try to make this, like I said, as condensed as I possibly could. So there you guys have it. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you guys did, hit the like button. You guys can always subscribe, that way you guys can stay up to date on all of our new content coming up. Like I said, I'm going to try to hit you guys as consistently as I possibly can. Life is kind of tumultuous from time to time, so I can't do it as often as I wished I could, but I enjoy making the content. I enjoy making the videos. I have an absolute blast, and hopefully that kind of, you guys can sense it in every single one of the videos. So let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know what kind of content you guys want to see in the future. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.